Okay, congratulations there. In the Surrey Junior Male Modern Grey, the results were as follows. First was 428, second was 429, and in class 257 adult male modern grey, the 430 was awarded a first prize. And then the championship was awarded to number 428, Wello Had Enough, right? Wello Had Enough from Wello Alpacas, owned by Mr. and Mrs. Neil and Michelle Payne. Congratulations. And the reserve went to Snows Hill Leonides, right? From Snows Hill Alpacas, owned by Mr. Roger and Mrs. Mary Mount. Congratulations. That was sponsored by the British Alpaca Society. And for anyone who doesn't know him, that was the Chief Executive Duncan that was in the ring awarding the prizes. Thank you very much. And then we go on to the class 113 with Junior Male Grey. 113 with the Kaya Junior Male Grey entering in ring 1.
Okay, so I've just judged the Sire's progeny in the ring, and I have to say the progeny classes are my favorite classes to judge, and so I'm very pleased to see a nice lineup of them and be able to do some comparisons and looking. And with Sire's progeny, we're looking, so each group of these has been sired by the same sire, but from different dams, and so we're looking for basically 3 peas in a pod of all positive traits. Now, getting 3 peas in a pod, it sounds easier than it is. You know, there's always one that's just a little bit different, or, you know, so I'm looking for all the positive traits that I can get that are pretty identical, because we're looking for that male over varying types of females to stamp those traits that we're looking for. And my first place group here are pretty close to 3 peas in a pod. When the first thing when I touch them is they've got sublime handle to them. It's really bright. They're well organized. They're very similar in density. Again, 2 are a little bit more denser than the third, but it is so close within that. And the frames on them, again, very similar. One is a little bit straighter in the back end than I would like compared to the other 2. But when I'm looking at the sum of all positive traits, it still brings them to the top of the class for me. And so I pulled samples from across, and the uniformity when I was comparing to the rest of the class was very, very similar in when I pulled shoulder, mid-side, and rump throughout all 3 of them. So something to be very proud of. They're a lovely group. And it was just that accumulation of the density and the uniformity between the 3 that placed them over my alpacas here in second place. In second place, we've got different colors, so that adds a whole new mix in it, and we've got different ages. And so when I'm looking at the uniformity of micron across, I'm taking into consideration that we have an older animal, and yet that animal is still quite similar in fineness to the 2 that are younger. And what I'd like to commend on these guys is the fleece length that I'm seeing. And although we're not quite to the fineness of my first group, the uniformity of the fineness within this 3 group is very, very good. And similar frames, which is excellent. And it was your uniformity of micron and the similarity in density between my second over my third. There's some really good traits within these 3 alpacas, but there's one that's just not quite near the density of the other 2. And so that's what's brought you down. And there's just a little bit more variation within micron on one of the 3, which has brought you down. But again, still very similar in frames, excellent brightness, and it's a lovely handle throughout all 3 of them, so well done. But it was, when I'm comparing to the next lot, it was your handle, your fineness, brightness of those fleeces that's placing them over, and density, it's placing them over my alpacas here in 4th place. And again, with 4, we've got some different colors, and we've got an older, but there is just a little bit more variation in micron in some of the group. So there's one that's really, really nice, and then there's 2 that's just got a little bit more variation in micron when I was going through those samples on it. But it was your fineness throughout the group that places your alpaca over my 5th place here. And 5th place, very similar in ages. and 2 have got fabulous handle and really good fineness, and then 1 is just a little higher in micron and not quite that same handle that I'm seeing in those other 2. Also, we're looking for the positive traits, so although they're very similar, they're also a little bit more leggy than a well-balanced group. But it was your fiber, your correct conformation and things that's placing over my alpacas here in 6th place. 6th place, again, they're very similar in head styles. They're very similar in growth. Obviously, they're very similar in color and things. But again, we've got 1 that's got a better fleece than the other 2. It's much softer and it's got greater density. But I'm also seeing that same 1 hasn't got the conformation. There's a little bit more leg angulations in the back, and I'd also like to see more correct teeth on a group through that sire's progeny. Thank you.
Big welcome to David and Heather from Polgrain Alpacas, silver sponsors this year. Thank you very much.
Okay.
How far have you come to be at the show?
Gosh, Cornwall. So quite a while to be here.
A little while on the road, and you've got some beautiful Surreys in your pen. Are you all about Surrey? What's the story with Polgrain?
Well, we have both. We have some Wakaya and we have some Surrey that we just bought last year. So we're expanding the herd and loving keeping the alpacas.
Fabulous. And do you aim to do anything gorgeous with their fleece?
Well, over to Heather for that, I think.
Well, we have made some blankets already, which we've sold, which is great. And we are hoping to do something with the Surrey fleece this year.
Fantastic. A little bird told me that you've been doing a weaving diploma, so you're the girl with all the skills on the loom.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but yeah. I finished my diploma this year, and so I'm hoping, we can go forward with that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. Good luck at the show, guys.
Thank you very much.
So while we settle down to enjoy them classes, I'd just like to give a little shout out here to some of the other show sponsors that haven't been mentioned so far, I don't think. But like the Fleece Show over there, the Champion of Champions Fleece Show was sponsored by CS Alpacas. The Fiber Zone was sponsored by Amanita Campbell, right, which is the Fiber Zone's excellent. If anyone is new, come here for a visit for the day, go and have a look at the alpaca products over there. There's a thing called a craft gnome, which is a great idea that's brought in by Amanita, and you get a little kit, you buy a little kit and you enter the competition via the kit. And next year, I don't think you're going to get your alpaca into the showground without one of these little craft gnomes. Everyone's got to have one. They're so easy, you can do them. Even my wife did them, and she's never been a crafty person in the 50 years I've known her. My grandchildren were amazed that she was sitting down actually doing some craft work, which is great. Blackdown Buildings are the on-screen adverts are sponsored by Blackdown Buildings, Legacy Alpacas, Hannah Haston, and